We begin this half hour with justice for a woman who was harassed and stalked by one man for 19 years. We'll talk to her exclusively in a moment. But first, NBC's Aditi Roy has that story. Aditi, good morning.
Good morning to you, Matt. Convicted stalker Sean Mole was just sentenced here last week at the King County Court. What makes this case so unusual is that, according to the prosecutor, the stalking lasted nearly 2 decades. He was an 8th grade misfit, awkward and troubled. 13-year-old Tracy Lundeen, then student body vice president, felt sorry for him. One day in the library, she offered to help Sean Mole with his homework.
Casual conversation, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. And then when the class was over for that period, left and went about my way.
But for Mole, the encounter was anything but casual. He started following Tracy around school and kept it up the next year when they both went to high school. She asked him to stop, but that just led to phone calls and disturbing letters. In one, he writes, "My blood will stain your hands forever." Tracy suffered through his harassment throughout high school, even after Mole was expelled. She and her family went to police and got a restraining order, but Mole found ways around it.
At one point, he was actually going to my previous employer and then even trying to find my sister at her employer.
In 2001, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison for stalking, but even that didn't stop him.
And at first, it was writing to Tracy, calling the house, and then it was trying to get magazine subscriptions in her name, and then it was trying to get other inmates to write.
Upon getting out, went pretty much right back to trying to track Tracy down, and found her through her sister Jennifer on an old, I believe it was My Life or Classmates.com account that Jennifer didn't even use anymore.
Prosecutors say Mole was determined and obsessive about Tracy and her family.
He wrote me a letter saying when he got out he had nowhere else to go and he wanted to come live with us and it would be better if Tracy didn't have a boyfriend. That just scared the heck out of me.
True to his word, Mole kept after Tracy even after his release. He was quickly convicted and sentenced again, this time for 26.5 years.
He absolutely tore the Lundeen family's life apart.
I would never have thought it would go on for as long as it has. And just the fact that it has, it's not going to end.
One of the unusual aspects of this case is that Tracy Lundeen barely knew Sean Mole before he became obsessed with her. In fact, ironically, if she had even gone on a single date with him, she would have had far more legal ammunition with which to protect herself. Matt?
Aditi Roy on this story for us. Aditi, thank you very much. And Tracy Lundeen is with us now exclusively. Tracy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I want to just start by picking up on what Aditi just said, that had you barely knew this guy, had you actually gone on a date with him, you would have had more legal ammunition. Why is that?
They say it would have been around like a domestic violence type protection order, a much stronger, tougher protection I could have had if I would have gone on at least one date.
This is an ironic twist. It truly is. 26 years, 26.5 years. That's what he's been sentenced to. How does it feel to know that?
It feels really good. Unfortunately, I don't think it's over. He still writes letters from the prison.
So even now, during this time in prison, he continues to try to contact you and your family?
Correct.
Over the time, I mean, it seems it's mostly been through letters that he has harassed you over these 19 years. Did he ever do anything toward you or toward your family members that you would say was violent?
The only things he did, there was 2 instances, one where he let my sister know that he was on his way to her employer. And then there was another instance where he said he was on his way to her house.
But can you describe what it was like, Tracy, to live all those years knowing you had this man who was clearly obsessed with you and not fully understanding how far he would be willing to go?
Very frustrating. I never knew, and I still don't know.
How did you change your life? How did you change your daily routine because of this?
My address is confidential, so that's very hidden and private. My employer as well. Any contact, any social media networks out there, everything is very private.
You spent your whole time looking over your shoulder, basically.
Yes.
The amazing thing to me about this story, he went to prison the first time for more than 8 years, got out. You say he was okay for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And then knowing the consequences and knowing the price he had already paid, he went back and did it again.
Yeah, he actually went back to towards my sister. So therefore, he thought it was a different avenue he could take without it being against the order that I have against him.
And how has this affected your family? You talk about him contacting your sister. How did they react to all this?
Horrible. I mean, she has young ones, so I mean, the kids have to know about it. They have to be aware as well. Just a sense of we can't really be open, and like I said, everything for me is hidden.
According to the prosecutors, and this is so frustrating, you and your family have done for these 19 years everything right, and yet still you weren't able to stop this man from doing what he did to your family. How does that make you feel?
Frustrated. Just that he just won't stop.
There are probably some people watching right now who are in a situation where they're uncomfortable with a relationship with someone, not sure of how that person will react, whether there is a borderline case of stalking occurring. What advice would you give to those people?
Don't give up. I mean, just stick to your guns, say no, keep saying no, keep going to any support you can, family. In my case, it was advocates through the city of through our cities, you know, and so therefore, I mean, I kept at it. I kept pushing and didn't stop.
Tracy Lundeen. Tracy, thanks for sharing your story. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.